Alright, you guys, we're coming back here. I'm going to teach you how to do a quick setup on your on a piece of blank paper. This is how it used to be done back in the day. Of course, now we have photocopiers, and after you do this once, you'll never have to do it again. But we're gonna knock it out right now. So remember, there's a 1/2 inch border around your page, so that's the first thing that you do. Now we're talking about the ideal situation is that everybody's borderline would look exactly the same. If I put all the pieces of paper in the class down on the same spot, it would be indistinguishable, the borderlines. Now, of course, that's not what's going to happen. Just do your best. It doesn't matter what you're using as long as it's a pencil. Okay, so we want a 1/2 inch line around the whole paper. So typically what I do to make a perfect 1/2 inch border is go to each edge, and what you're going to do is over on the two opposite sides, you're going to measure in 1/2 an inch. So I'm lining this up here. I'm going to that top corner, lining my eye up, and I make a mark at that 1/2 inch spot. And then I'm going to come down this way, and it doesn't matter, where you are necessarily, as long as they're somewhat far apart. And I'm going to make a 1/2 inch mark right here. And then I'm going to turn my paper sideways. You can see these are really tiny little marks that I'm making, okay? Tiny, tiny little marks. I'm going to turn my paper sideways like this. I can use either side of my ruler. And I want to make sure this looks nice. So I line up my two marks and then make sure it looks good across my page. That looks pretty uniform. The size looks the same. And make sure that my mark across is traveling through. Sometimes we line up our ruler and start to draw, and the pencil isn't actually lined up with our marks, so you got to be careful. Come all the way across like that. Alright, super. And you will want to erase. You don't need to go all the way to the end of your paper, because we're going to have a border line coming on the other side as well. And so now we just repeat this process on all four sides of our paper. So we want it to try to look perfect. So you can keep watching and working with me, or you can, I'll just keep recording so I can destroy YouTube and put way too many megabytes of data onto YouTube. Just break YouTube. That's the goal. That's my life goal. I have so many videos that they give me a call. They're like, "Hey, did you know that you just uploaded a 3-hour video of your dog sneezing?" I'd be like, "Yeah, I did know that. Thanks, YouTube." Your borderline, you generally want to make that nice and dark. Here I have my two on my left and my right side of my paper. Good. Alright, now you can't necessarily connect these because you don't know where the 1/2 inch is, so you got to come up here, make another 1/2 inch mark, and put that on this corner here. Slide that paper up. I'm going to put another 1/2 inch mark over here on this side somewhere. Come in 1/2 inch, like so, and then run that ruler all the way across our paper. Make sure my spots are lined up. Make sure you're bracing your ruler when you go to make your line. All the way to where it's supposed to go. And that looks beautiful. So there's our border line. I still have the bottom edge to do, so I'll knock that out really quick. Some of you might be measuring in my 1/2 inch. I said we're only going to do this once, and then I'm going to use the photocopier, and you never have to do it again. It's a rite of passage, like painting a picket fence, taking out the trash, something like that. What is it, graduating high school, I guess? Yeah, you guys, this is part of it. That's what the superintendent wants. There shall be no graduates of North Pole High School that have not manually created a title block in drafting. It's in there. Pretty even, may even be in the school rules. Alright, there's our border line. Oh, isn't that pretty? Oh man, it's beautiful. Stunning even. Look at that border line. Oh, I can't find my hand. No. Here we go, focusing. Nice. Okay, good. We've got our border line created. So now we got to make our title block. Let's do it up. All right, title block. We're going to come in another 1/2 inch. If I had any foresight whatsoever, I would have made both those marks at the same time. So make sure you don't want to make sure, you want to make sure that you're measuring straight. You don't want your ruler to be kind of sideways, especially when you're going to the middle of the paper here. So I'm going to be measuring as straight as I can, coming in from this edge. I know that my border line's at 1/2 inch, so I can put my next one at the 1 inch mark. That's a nifty little trick there. Lining up there, coming into 1 inch, putting a tick mark, and then we're gonna draw a line through those 2 spots. Isn't this relaxing? I don't know why I find this so relaxing, but it is very relaxing. All right, so now I've got the start of my title block. What I don't have are those spacings. And honestly, I already forgot what they were. I think it was 2 3/4, 3 3/4, and 5/8, but I'm gonna double check. Yup, 2 3/4, 3 3/4, and 5/8. So for this one, we're going to start measuring over here on this other edge. So that's 2 3/4. All right. Whoops. Making sure my ruler's lined up. Two and 3/4. I think 3 3/4 puts us over there, but measure it again. 2 3/4, and then 3 3/4 from the line that we just made. It should be 6 1/2, I believe. Yeah. So you can just go to 2 3/4 and 6 1/2, because 6 1/2 is 2 3/4 plus 3 3/4. And then over here, this one is 5/8. So I'm just going to pick a random inch and count back 5/8 of an inch. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right there. Okay, so I've made my marks. Technically, you should be making marks on the bottom side of the paper to make sure your lines are straight, but that seems a little bit crazy because I bet you can line them up just fine. So make sure your ruler is going across your page in a straight manner. Draw your line across. The line is so short anyways. All right, here we go. And then 5/8. Beautiful. Stunning. 10 out of 10. I feel like an Olympic commentator here. All right, so this is our 1-1 assignment. So let's go through those elements. You put our section number here, 1-1. I'll zoom in so we can see what we got going on. 1-1 goes over here. Name and date go in this box. So I'll put my name. You don't put my name. You put your name. Andrew Slagle. And today's date is, I'm writing this on the 17th. I believe that yours is going to be the 19th. All right, we got name and date on there. Then over here is the drawing, what we're drawing. We're about to draw a rectangle. Okay, cool. We're going to get a rectangle. Awesome. All right, and over here we put our school Northville High School. I'm okay with abbreviations, NPHS. So there we have our completed, stunning, just absolutely incredible title block. Looks nice. And I'm going to teach you how to draw a rectangle. Now your assignment requires you to draw a 5x3 rectangle. I'm going to do one that's a little bit different. That's okay. Mine would be a different length. I'm going to get that kind of mapped out here in just a sec. Okay, the first thing first little drafting or geometry skill that we're going to go over here in our drawing is to make sure we know how to find the center of a rectangle. Why is that important? Well, finding the center of a rectangle is important because it allows us to center our drawings if we need to. Okay, so your assignment wants you to draw a a 3 by 5 rectangle, but we're going to draw something different. We're going to draw let's do a 4 by 6. So you're going to draw a 5 by 3. I don't want a 4 by 6 turned in. You draw 5 by 3. So if we're going to do a 4 by 6 and I want it centered in the page, well, how do I start? Where do I put my corner? Right? That's maybe a little bit tricky. So first thing we're going to do is we are going to find the center of our drawing area. Not the center of the page, the center of our drawing area. We're going to put our drawings here on the inside, not in the title, not in the borderline. The borderline stays clear. So how do you find the center of a rectangle? Well, what you do is you just run a line between the diagonals of the box, not the diagonals of the paper, because that'll put your center in the wrong location. So I'm going to go from here to here and here to there, and I'm just going to take my pencil and just do a light little line right there in the middle. I don't know if you can see that. Okay, and then I'm going to come across diagonally this way, like so. Okay, and I'm going to put another light little line in my page, and the spot where they cross is the absolute center of my drawing area. So I'll put a little dot there for measure, and you can leave, this is kind of a construction line. You can leave most of that cross there, or you can erase some of it too. Okay, so I'm going to do a 4 by 6, 4-inch by 6-inch rectangle. You're doing a 5 by 3, that's something else. We'll have the length long side go this way. So if I'm doing a 4 by 6, how do we make this happen? Well, it's not too terribly bad. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go from this center dot. Remember, we're trying to make our drawings look as identical as we can. I'm going to go from that center dot, and we are going to measure over half the distance of that total length. If this is a 4 by 6 rectangle, I'm going to be measuring over 3 from the center. So I'll start here at 5. You don't have to start at 0 every single time. Now, one thing I have to be aware of is, we don't want my ruler to be slightly askew or slightly off. That might be a problem. So what I'm actually going to do is kind of a strange little technique here, is I'm going to measure the distance from the center of my paper. Well, I know the center actually this direction. This is an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. So if I go all the way, at least it should be close. It's right on the money. 8.5 by 11. So it's 11. So 5.5 inches is the middle. So if we want to, go crazy, we could use the edge as a guide if we want. So it's 5.5 to the center. So if I want to measure, say, 3 inches this way, I could go down here to the edge of my paper. So 3 inches this way. Let's take a look at that one more time, starting at the center. All right, so if I'm at 5.5 and I want to make it 3 inches this way, that would be at 4.5, 3.5, 2.5. So I can come down here. Now the reason I'm doing this, I'm doing the same thing I did with my border line. I'm going to line up, so I have this line as a gauge to make sure my ruler's straight, and I'm going to come over to 2.5 right here. I'm going to put a tick mark right there. And you're probably saying, Mr. Slagle, why aren't you just measuring from the dot? Well, if you measure from the dot, that puts you at a center line, and yeah, that can work too. You can do that as well. In fact, I'll put a tick mark there as well. But I'm also going to come up here and I want to make sure my line is perfectly horizontal. So I have these tick marks coming across my page. I don't know if you can see these 3 tiny tick marks that I've drawn, and I'm going to draw a line through them like so. See, the one that I did there is a little bit off. That's okay. All right, good. and I'm drawing a line that's not the right length right now. We're going to erase those once we're done. Okay, so 5.5 should be 5.5 to the other side for 11. So I'm going to come back 2.5 inches, just like I did before. 1, 2.5. Put a tick mark. Does that look right? I think so. Yeah, because that is 1, 2, 3. Again, the math that I did there is this is 5.5 inches. I want the length of my rectangle to be 6 all the way across. So I'm going to go 3 this way and 3 this way. If this is 5.5 and this is 3, then I know that this length is 2.5. And I'm using the edge of my paper to keep my line straight. Okay, so I'm going to come over here, measure 2.5 inches, put a tick mark, come over here, make sure my ruler's straight, measure 1, 2.5 inches, put a tick mark, and then let's connect those lines across my page. That's looking good. Alright, cool. It's a little bit off. That's okay. Now this is a rough line. I'm going to do some erasing to draw my rectangle. That's okay. Now we got to do the hard part here. This is a 4x6. This is an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. But mine is not in the center, so this is going to be a little bit tricky. So what I'm going to do is once I get this top edge, I can use the top edge to get the bottom edge. So I'm going to go like this. I'm going to measure how far is it from the center to the edge roughly. Well, if I look at it this way, it looks like it's about 4 inches. Well, that's pretty easy. So that means I can go from the top edge here, and I'm going to subtract 2 because it's 4x6, right? If we want this to be 4 tall, then I need to go 2 in this direction and 2 in this direction. So I'm going to go to that top edge, and I'm going to come down 2 inches. Then I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to come down 2 inches and put a tick mark. Okay? And then here we get the top edge of my rectangle. Now, a lot of the methods that I'm using might seem strange, but what they're doing is they're making sure that my rectangle is perfectly square. And I'm going to make that edge a little bit darker. The reason I did that is because I know it's correct, because I have these 2 lines that I know are correct. That also allows me to come through and erase those lines that went over the length that they were supposed to. And now that this line is done, I can, using these lines as a guide, I can get my 4 inches. So I can come down here. I know this one needs to be a 4x6, so I put a tick mark there. Come up to this side, put a tick mark here, and what I have is a perfect rectangle in the center of my paper, which seems maybe a little strange that I went through all this trouble to just draw a rectangle. But if you're talking about doing fine carpentry or fine woodworking, then it requires this level of precision because you want your joints to fit smoothly. I'm coming back to just darken some of the lines that I made, so I'm just doing these border lines a little bit darker, first ones that I did. And there you have it. I'm leaving some of my measurement marks on the paper just for good luck, but there I have a 4x6, and we can label this if you'd like, 4 inches by 6 inches. So I've got this drawn with a nice setup there. It looks pretty darn good. So you're not going to do a 4x6, you're going to do a 5x3 centered rectangle in your paper. It's going to make the math a little more challenging, but I believe in you, and hope you had fun watching this video. Thanks.